It was good to be with my bride.
37 years.
Yeah, this end of this month. Yeah.
You hit 64 in January.
Wow, fabulous.
Plenty of hope
Yeah.
for you yet.
Yeah. Good to know. He's ready, I can tell you. Oh, there's no question. Next week he'll read a speech. Yeah. Oh, did I? I just got it today. I have not. Oh, so it's been edited.
No, what I'm saying is that you didn't know how to send it so that you could view it on the Google Doc.
That's true. I could not open it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
We let people go to the ONEG, and now we have to get them back from the ONEG.
That was my point.
Right.
Got it. Yeah, got it. Todd, if you can please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so this is all part of the same name.
Oh, that looks perfectly. Makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, Gertrude Krupnik Canning.
Yeah, that's not spelled correctly.
No, it is not. Perfect.
It's my pleasure to ask Dottie Braun-Cohn, member of the Temple Solel Board of Trustees, to share some announcements.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm Dottie Braun-Cohen, member of the Temple Solel Board of Trustees. We are so glad to have everyone here this evening. Welcome. Thank you to the Bravitz family for sponsoring the streaming of this evening's services in honor of the B'nai Mitzvah of John, Jake, and Callie. Mazel Tov. Torah study is held every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 via Zoom and also serves as a minyan for anyone saying Kaddish. Our weekly e-news contains opportunities to engage in the life of Solel. Take a moment to read it and get involved in any activity that appeals to you. Please join us this evening after services for a security briefing from Antebellum Security. And a reminder to be aware of your surroundings and make yourself aware of the exits. Remember, if you see something, say something. To make sure we can all enjoy Shabbat together in peace, please take a moment now to verify that your cell phone and other electronic devices are silenced and put away in a pocket or purse. And let's welcome Shabbat together. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Maybe
Shalom.
before we turn to page 10, or you can turn to page 10 right now if you want, but would love for you just to turn around, maybe somebody you don't know, or even if you know them, just to wish one another a Shabbat Shalom. Take a moment.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hine ma tova manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is for brothers and sisters, friends, strangers to be together and welcome this day of rest, this day of Shabbat.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. 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 How beautiful it is to be here, feeling like we belong, arm in arm just like sisters and brothers, joined together in song.
Together.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד.
And not only welcome to those in our sanctuary, but those that are streaming tonight. And I know, Jack Ratterman, you're missing being with your family here, but we are beaming you in tonight. Shabbat Shalom. So I'm going to, there must be, well, let me pose it as a question. Any birthdays in the month of May here tonight? May birthdays? Beautiful. Well, we're good. Yeah. Toby, you as well? No. Oh, I thought I saw a
Yes.
hand.
No.
Oh,
It is.
Yeah, Jessica. Jessica, yes. So we're going to have, if it's your birthday this month, come on up. Yeah, come on up. Yeah, I know. Yeah. because we're going to give you the honor, and we're going to be joining you. Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, so you see, so all right, Theo, beautiful. So actually gather around the candles in the kiddush, and Jessica, if you could just light these lights. We're gonna do the blessing together for the candles. What's that? 4 cars.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Theo, you up for lifting a kiddush cup here? So yeah, it's gonna. By the way, June 4th. What's happening June 4th? Bar mitzvah boy. Bar mitzvah boy. So we're gonna join you in the kiddush right now.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu V'shabbat kodsho B'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit Ki hu yom techila l'mikrae kodesh Zecher l'tziat mitzrayim Ki vanu v'acharta Ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim Ve'shabbat kodshecha Be'ahava u'beratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat
Amen. So, l'chaim, it's grape juice, so have a little sip. And to each of you, before a happy birthday in Hebrew and English, may the beautiful light of these Shabbos lights, like the spark of the vine that was in your souls the moment you were born, continue to glow and illuminate the path before you. You are a blessing to your family, your friends, this community, and we want to wish you a happy birthday.
Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear friends, happy birthday to you.
Or as we would say in Buffalo, New York, happy birthday to yous. It's just a little Buffalo accent. And I can't help myself. And we have a choice of, and actually there must be a supply chain thing going on. The birthday gifts are a little thin, but have a choice of a pencil or a pen for your birthday. So we continue on page 13. Page 13, the words of the psalm, Shir Adonai, Shir Chadash, a song, a poem to God, and each week we make it a Shir Chadash, a new song by bringing our spirits in this room.
Shiru Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Sing it with us.
Join us.
Shiru Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song.
And the beautiful creativity of the mystics in the Israeli city, the ancient city of Tzafat, imagining welcoming Shabbat as we would welcome a bride in as the sun is setting, just the joy of that moment as we do into our sanctuary on page 20. L'chadoli likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabala.
L'chadoli likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabala. L'chadoli likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diburecha ishmiyahu el ha'miyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'letiferet v'lidilah l'chadoli likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadoli likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקבר נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לחלומי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה. לחלומי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי התעוררי כי בעורף קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי
going to invite you to rise as we face the back of our sanctuary with the sun going down, welcoming the Shabbos bride.
בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצור עולם, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Invite you to, for those standing, to remain standing, and everybody to turn to page 28 for the Baruch Hu.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Do you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Elelai, 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 elelai,
And together, the top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Page 32.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Havta Amcha Havta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadeta, Otanu lemadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shofenu, קומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. We bracket the words of the Shema, Ahavat Olam and Ve'ahavta, with words of love. What else could we do with words of Torah that surround them with words of love? Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם עליך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
So a little later in the service, we will read tonight's blessing for actually the 28th day of counting the Omer. But the count doesn't start in our tradition until we have crossed the other side of the Red Sea for us to have our first taste of freedom. And then we realize that, freedom does come with a few responsibilities, and it's time to move to Mount Sinai. But we don't want to jump the gun, as it were, to be able to just rejoice every time we sing these words, Michamocha Ba'elim Adonai, not only our people's story of liberation, but each of us individually may be a moment of personal liberation, of releasing the bonds of something that's holding us back, or just knowing that there are people in our midst who yet wait for a day of freedom. And it's our obligation to reach out to them and walk in the light of God together. Page 40.
We are walking in the light of God. 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 We are walking.
We are walking.
We are walking.
We are walking.
We are walking in the light of God. We are walking.
We are walking.
We are walking.
We are walking.
We are walking in the light of God. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefelen. Nora tehilot osefelen. We are walking in the light of God. 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 We are walking. We are walking. We are walking. We are walking. We are walking in the light of God. We are walking. We are walking. We are walking. We are walking. We are walking in the light of God.
Such a beautiful, beautiful image of walking in God's light, and what does that feel like, and how can we get a little bit of that? We will continue on page 42, and let's read the reading in the middle of page 43. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, va'al kol amo Yisrael, Ba'al Yerushalayim.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Hamidenu Shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, Hamidenu, Shomreinu, L'chaim, L'chaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim. May you shelter us with peace until the morning comes. May you lay us down with love, and may you raise us up. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim lechaim.
So I think one of the ways we walk in the light of God is when there's somebody dear in our life who's hurting, they're struggling with an illness, something is fractured inside, it hurts us. And it's good it does. That is part of walking in God's light. So we will offer a prayer for healing for those that are in our hearts, and to know that for those of us here, you may be hurting as well in one way or another, and receive this prayer knowing that your community surrounds you, channeling the light of God. We pray for Paul Solin, Nicole Hazen, Carol Brillman, Kit Kasich, Steve Gubin, Alice Helfman, Sarah Hadassah Batihudit Daniel, Susan Zuber Chal, Marcel Applebaum, Eileen Schwartz, Sandy Levitt, Judy Selinsky, Dave Nichols, Myra Greenberg, Leah Dombro, Lori Elitzek, Emmanuel Kalu, Joan Ballin, Helen Epstein, Jonathan Cohen, Roberta Scharf, Mel Schlesinger, Craig Fink, Dorothy Gerbag, Barzin, Joni Thompson, Joshua Friedman, Seth Friedman, Marcia Asmov, Marty McGarry, Leon Wall, Randy Newman, Narendra Sood, Caitlin Friedman, Jeff Chapman, Michael Morris, Rebecca Feldberg, Myra Baum, Michael Braberman, Barry Fask, Farrell Sachs, Patricia Patty Davis, Diane Harris Klein, Cynthia Marcus, Evie Lieberman. And those that you are holding in your hearts, feel free to say a name aloud or in your heart.
Sheberach Avoteinu Kor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu kor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We continue with the Amidan, page 46. Invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
Adonai sivatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Koneh Hakol, Ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, Ata Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umkayim Emunato, Lishene Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umchaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, Baruch ata Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha sela, Baruch ata Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh.
Please be seated. No prayer more special than a prayer for peace. Maybe someday we won't have to pray for it, but we sure need to now, and somehow just amplifying our voices for a prayer for peace within this sanctuary to let your words float out into the world makes a difference. So let's read these words together on the top of page 61, and then followed by just a beautiful musical setting for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael, bashalom.
Shalom Ra al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Ra al Yisrael Amcha, Ki ata hu melech Adon Shalom. Tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. טוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום, בשלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום.
And we hold those words of peace for our own moment of silent prayer.
עושה שלום ברומא, עושה שלום ברומא. הוא יעשה, הוא יעשה, הוא יעשה שלום. הוא יעשה, הוא יעשה, הוא יעשה שלום. הוא יעשה, הוא יעשה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. 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 Bring peace down, bring peace down.
We missed the choreography of that.
It was
Bring
subtle.
pe-
It was
bring
subtle
peace
tonight. It was happening.
Down,
It's-
bring peace down. Yeah, everybody missed that except for me. Much of my sabbatical, I was gone for 3 months, was spent intentionally tuning into those positive, loving voices that feed my soul. One of which was reconnecting with dear colleagues and friends who surely deeply feed my soul, which reminds me of a story. Once upon a time, there was a king. The king's always a great target. Once upon there was a king who had a magnificent collection of birds. And when the king finished a long day ruling over the kingdom, what did the king do? The king would walk into his palace of birds and just revel in the variety of birds. Actually, every beautiful bird in the world would actually come and flock around him when he came into the room. Some would land on his arms, all birds except for one. And one day, a traveler came to the king and told him about the most beautiful bird in the world that the king didn't have. That bird lived in a forest with the tallest trees in the world and lived on top of the tallest tree. And the king's first reaction, of course, was, I'm going to catch that bird. I'm going to catch that bird and make it my own. So the king went off deep, deep into the forest that traveler described until he realized, I think I've arrived, because they were the tallest trees the king had ever seen, and a place perhaps like the California redwoods. And sure enough, he took his binoculars and he looked up to these soaring trees and saw a bird like he had never, ever seen before. Colors of the rainbow in this bird's feathers. And the bird actually looked up, the king looked up to the bird and said, I'm coming to get you. And the king pulled out of his bag of equipment a long rope, tied a lasso on the end of it, and began to swing the rope and faster and faster and faster until it had enough momentum to soar to the top of the tree. The bird saw it coming and did a little hop to the side. And the lasso went over the tree and came down and hit, who do you think on the head? Hit the king on the head. And the king scratched his head a little bit, rubbed the soreness of the head, and said, all right, now I'm going to take out my bird-catching net. This, the king said, never fails. And did the same thing with the net, started to swing it around until it had enough momentum, and up, coming towards the bird, until the bird took a little hop to the side, and the net came down and, yes, hit the king on the head again. Well, the king figured, I'm going to take out my ace in the hole. I've got a folding ladder. And the king took out the folding ladder and from the ground unfolded it all the way up to the top of the tree and climbed up rung by rung until looking eye to eye, nose to nose with that bird, said, now I've got you. And just as the king reached out to grab the bird, Charlie, what'd the bird do? The bird hopped to the side, and of course this time the king lost his balance, tumbled down the ladder to the ground, and really, really hurt himself. His body was badly, badly bruised, and so was his ego. And wouldn't you know it, just at this time, a circus rolled up the road in this desolate forest. And there was a troupe of acrobats. And what, yeah, oh no, yes, there is a troupe of acrobats. And they must have been a troupe of acrobats from the west side of Buffalo, New York, my hometown, because they had a distinctive Italian accent. And the leader of the group went up to the king and said, Mamma mia, and excuse my accent, Mamma mia, why are you crying? And the king told him his story of woe. There's a bird up there, and the king always gets what the king wants. And And the troop leader said, "That's it? All you want to do is get up and get that bird?" So in no time, the troop leader brought all of his, because his troop was called the Flying Fettuccine Brothers and Sisters. And he gathered all of his siblings around and called on, first of all, Lasagna. Lasagna was the biggest of all to be the base of this human ladder going up the tree. So Lasagna took his place, and then following was Sister Manicotti, who climbed on the brother's shoulders, and then each sibling, linguine and rigatoni and ravioli and tortellini and cannelloni and capellini and cappuccino. Oh, that's not a pasta, is it? Until the last one, the leader, penne pasta, the smallest one, climbed up on every one of his siblings' shoulders, until now, the human ladder and Penne, looking directly at the bird, said, "You know that the king wants you to be down there, so I'm going to grab you right now." And the bird actually couldn't believe it until, wouldn't you know it, at the base of the human ladder, the famous fettuccine flying siblings, Lasagna realized, "I'm allergic to birds." And Lasagna started to sniffle and actually felt a sneeze coming up and started to, And his siblings knew what was going on, and they pleaded with me, no, Lasagna, hold it back, don't, this is no time for a sneeze. Forgive my accent. But at one point it's, shoo! And all of the flying fettuccine siblings came tumbling down. And at that moment, with the troop on the ground, the king broke out in laughter. He had never laughed so much in his life. And all of a sudden, the fettuccine siblings started laughing. And the bird was getting such a kick out of it, it flew off the tree, was circling around, landed right on the king's shoulder. And the king looks over the bird and said, "Did you see that?" And the bird said, "Of course." And then the king realized, it's the bird. Said, "You're here." And the bird said, "Of course I'm here. I couldn't let you laugh alone. It was just too funny." And the king said, "But I tried to catch you." And the bird said, "You can't catch me. I won't let you catch me. But if you ask me, I'll be your friend." And then, for the king, the light bulb went on for him. You don't catch or acquire friends. You make friends. You nurture friends. And from that point on, needless to say, as the story ends, the bird was invited back to the bird's palace. And every time the king would return back from work, the birds would flock, and the special bird would sit on his shoulder and whisper, reminding him how funny it was seeing those fettuccine siblings come tumbling down. And from that point on, it was clear that the king and the bird would share laughter and joy, and their laughter, if we listen closely enough, fills the world. Why? Because there is nothing sweeter than friends sharing laughter and life together. So it's actually with that, it's such a joy to invite friends up on the bima, and in this case, friends that have one thing in common. Well, probably a number of things in common, but they're high school seniors. And we're going to call you up on the bima, and we are going to not only just rejoice in your friendship, but to offer a blessing as you graduate from high school and prepare to open a new chapter in college. So Ariel Nelson, Jessica Udelman, Charlie Ratterman, Jillian Garfield, Elsa Steen Kopel, come on up. And as you're coming up, I am going to give a shout out to those seniors that couldn't be here tonight. Lauren Eckstein, Cole Sorosky, Drew Kolber, Devin Karash, Shayna Gavarton, Ryan Spear, Gavin Guinness, Ariel Nelson, and Ellie Washansky.
Ariel's here. She's right behind you.
Ariel Eisen?
No, you said Nelson.
Oh, no. Yes, I called you to come up. Yeah, Ariel Eisen at home. So with that, just to receive this blessing, actually, it's a blessing that each one of you received from Cantorial Solus Herzog when you each became B'nai Mitzvah. So receive it. Let's go.
May you be blessed as you go on your way. May you be guided in peace. May you be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. Let's join together. Amen. Amen. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen.
So some of you have your college colors on, but everyone wants to know where you're going to college.
The University of Washington.
Is that UW or something?
Yes.
UW, yeah.
Arizona State University.
Flying the flag nice and so I am married to a gal from Ohio State, so this hurts a little bit.
Indiana University.
Indiana University.
Northern Arizona University.
Beautiful.
University of Arizona.
So certainly as parents know, but everybody knows that, my goodness, are we in good hands with these wonderful, wonderful leaders beginning to embark on, first of all, celebrating graduating from high school is a big deal, and then just beginning such a promising next chapter of your life. Just know that your Temple community loves each of you, and we're always here for you.
We're gonna keep them.
So we are going to, as we do traditionally, the counting of the Omer on page 278. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat haOmer. Our praise to you, Adonai, our God, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom shmona ve'esrim yom shehem arba'ah Shavuot la'omer. This is the 28th day, being 4 weeks of the Omer. So before we open up the ark for Elena, which is on page 282, Mason Marks, Mason, I'm going to ask you to leave your prayer book on the chair. Come on up. Mason Marks is the newest staff person at Temple Solel, our director of engagement. I'm actually not sure if that's your official title, but that's what so all of you are going to get to know Mason, just involved in engaging you in this wonderful, wonderful community. So you have the honor of opening the ark that's what I'm saying. And rise in body or spirit for Elenu 282.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו בגובהם מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated.
Thank you, Mason.
We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those who we have drawn into our hearts with our own zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. Invite you to rise after the name of your loved one is read, after which we will stand in community to recite the Mourner's Kaddish together on page 294. Are there any names in the period of Shiva, the first 7 days of mourning? In the period of Shloshim, Sheila Brody Gleischer, Marilyn Silverman, Debbie Scharf, Carl Silverman, Stanley Cantor, Jeremy Charney, Michael Kazanet. Within the first year, Ellie Ziegler, Matt Schott, Sandra Friedman, and those whose yahrzeits occur this time of year. Adrian Milder, Alan Gleischer, Beatrice Brace, Bessie Clemens, Edith Thomas, Edwina Busker, Esther Gurovich, Frank Budd, Gary Mosenter, George Ackman, Gertrude Krupnik Canning, Harvey Flater, Irving Lober, Sarah Zittimer, Jean Sarlett, Joseph Smolins, Catherine Foreman, Leanne Rabin, Lenore Silverman, Libby Koplin, Lillian Rosinski, Malvina Brejchovsky, Mildred Alexander, Nathan Goldberg, Philip Padden, Ruth Stone, Sally Libman, William R. Dees, Samuel Feldberg, Samuel Schaefer, Sarah Denmark. Are there any other names you wish to remember this Shabbat? Jen? What was the name? Yeah. I invite you to rise for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divrach kirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon of yomechon, uv'chayerecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemed kudsha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to Israel, and to all the world, to which we say, amen. May be seated. Todd, I think you've got something up your sleeve here.
Yeah, well, your your story about friendship kind of gave me an idea where we could get maybe like a twofer, kind of like a closing song and a plug for this Sunday's Solel Through the Decades. We're going to be celebrating our community together. It's going to be a really fun afternoon Sunday at 4 o'clock. We're going to have a full band. We're going to have wine and appetizers. You can bring your beach blankets, your lawn chairs, or we'll have chairs set up in our social hall, and we'll have our own kids performing along with our professional musicians. So please come and join us, and you might hear something like this. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old pal said. Boy, you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me.
Transition here. Peter, it's you.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
So after services tonight, we're going to have a briefing from Antebellum Protection, who is our security company, and Sherry and Jimmy are going to go through some safety guidelines for evacuating the sanctuary and just some general ideas on security and safety for Temple Solel. So if you can hang out, that would be great, and we'll have it. We're going to have it on the screens here. We're going to have some talking and some video, and we'll go through that. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, if you can stay, great. It's in your interest, for the community's interest, and you're also not chained to the seats. So, anyway, please. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I'm Motzi. It's like, Rabbi, you've been gone for 3 months. You forgot the Motzi. Baruch Adonai Elohim melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Thanks.
know how to play the videos, right?
For those in here, we're going to listen to Jimmy Wasson. Thank you, Jimmy.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started.
If you're in the sanctuary, you're listening to Jimmy Wasson, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi. So, like you said, my name is Jimmy Wasson, and what we want to do tonight is do a very quick kind of presentation on some basic safety and some thoughts about mindset and how to, thank you, Tom. Thank you, on how to recognize the signs, a little bit of violence, and we've been doing this at a lot of different synagogues for a few minutes after services. And so that's kind of what we do. And what we'll do is when we finish a couple things, I don't know, there's a couple of videos that we're going to run through here really quick, but I don't know if you need to move to that side because that screen's not working, or if there's other TVs or not. So we've been, like I said, we've been doing this. What we'd like to do is just talk about kind of mental mindset, and we like to, when we're done, we're going to do a very quick evacuation drill. So we always say in security, the first time you go through an emergency exit should not be an emergency, right? If something was to happen right now, you should have your plan and know exactly what you're going to do. And we think that's important because it saves time. We know we have an exit over there, but what's on the other side of that door, we don't know. There's through that door over there, that's another exit point, but that goes into another room that eventually leads out into the courtyard. So it's important to know ahead of time, what if something was to happen, what exactly is our plan? What are we going to do? If we can't move fast, maybe we're going to go into that room and kind of, when we talk about run, hide, and fight. But what's so important, and my background, I was 30-year law enforcement. I started in New York City back in the 80s and came out here in Scottsdale. So when we talk about that mindset, it's very, very important just to kind of have that plan and know what you're going to do. So this exact training was given to the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, and that name of that training was called Alice, and it was a lot longer than what we do. We try to get the training done, hit the point, because I know time is Friday night. So I have a video of a survivor of Tree of Life. His name is Steve Weiss, and he talks about that day when the shooting started and what happened, and then we're going to talk very quickly about lessons learned from that incident. And it's a kind of I think it's a very powerful video when he talks about the importance of this type of training. So no, it's not going to work. Make sure I got it on right. All right, so just hit the space bar and go into the next one, or that one's fine. Okay, just hit play. If you move the cursor, it'll kind of hit that little, there you go. Of course the sound's not working. Like I said, he talks about when the sounds, when the gunshots started and what he was told to do, and then he realized that was a mistake, and then he talks about his training took over, and that's what we always want to accomplish, is to have that mental mindset, to know what you're going to do, because if we waste time, if we hear something and we don't recognize it, or we go into situations.
October 27th at the Tree of Life congregation. I was there for morning services, as I would be on any Shabbat, and at about 9:45 we started our morning services. At a little after 9:50 in the morning, there was a loud crashing sound that was in the hallway outside of the congregational service in the chapel. And it sounded like somebody had dropped a tray of glasses, is what it sounded like to me. Two of the congregants that were in the room went running out to see if they could help somebody, because obviously there was a problem. I was waiting to go out because the rabbi was leading a prayer, and that prayer required 10 people to be in the room, and I was the 10th person in the room. At about 15 seconds later, the rabbi finished the prayer. I walked into the doorway to leave the room, and there was a series of sounds that were unmistakable as gunshots. As I was standing in the doorway, I could actually see shell casings bouncing across the floor in front of me. I turned around and came back into the chapel and went over to the side aisle and reached the very back pew. At that point, the rabbi announced for everybody to get down that was in the room. I started to get down below the bench and realized that that's not what we had been trained to do. I immediately got up and started running towards the front of the room and across the bima, the elevated platform at the front of the room, and out through a door. As I was leaving the room, there were gunshots that were starting to occur in the room. I went down a back stairway to warn the congregation downstairs that there was gunfire in the building. When I reached the downstairs area, several of the members of the downstairs congregation had already come into a back hallway. I, at that point, went back upstairs. 4 people had come out of the chapel with me. One of those people was very concerned about being there and wanted to go home. When I came back upstairs, nobody was in the room anymore behind the chapel. I heard gunfire occurring downstairs, and I went out a side hallway and went out to the side street where I waited for the first police cars to pull up. What I later found out is that this one young man who was not wanting to stay there went back into the chapel, and he was killed. Additionally, from downstairs, there was a congregant that was opening the door to peek out a little bit through the door, and he was also killed. When I think back to the training that I had, and this was in September of 2017, that Brad Orsini came to our congregation and did a training, an ALICE training for the religious school at our congregation, I had remembered some of the things he taught us. He taught us that if you are evacuating the area, then make that choice and move and get out of the area. If you don't feel that it's safe to get out of the area, that then you should find a place to shelter and stay there until the police come and it's safe to come out. 2 people that did not wait went out and were killed. I had followed the training that we had, and I was able to get out of the building, meet the police, and let them know where the shooter was in the building when they arrived at the scene. And I really believe that I do owe my life to the ALICE training that I had. It was provided by Brad, and I would have been the 12th casualty that day had I not had the training.
Thank you.
I think that's very, very powerful. And what he talks about and what we want to kind of accomplish tonight is that when he says shelter in place, where are you going to shelter in place? And what we want you guys kind of to think about is when you come into the synagogue, that you kind of look around and say to yourselves, if something happened right now, if something happened right now, where am I going to go? Where is my best option? Because if something was to happen in the lobby, and like he says, you know, with the sound of shots or a fight or whatever happens, we want to know where we're going to go. If we start looking at each other and trying to figure out what our plan is, we waste seconds. And in these situations, minutes are important, but seconds are critical when the event occurs. So if you decide to evacuate, we want to know, and that's what we're going to go do tonight. We're going to know what's on the other side of that door, and we're going to know that there's an exit out here, so we don't waste those critical seconds looking at each other, trying to make our plan. We always want to have that plan made up every time we come into this building, where you work, where you shop. I've been a cop for a long time. I won't get into any stories, but this stuff happens everywhere. So just a few statistics, too, when we talk about profiles of the actors. Every one of these, with the exception of one person, that's the Las Vegas shooter, had some sort of an emotional leakage. It was whether it was on Facebook, telling a friend, talking about firearms, disgruntled. Every single one of these actors had some sort of leakage. They were abusing prescription medications. It always falls into those kind of categories. 55% of these people are known to the organization, and obviously 45% are not. So when we think about that, there's a half a chance we might actually know this person. When we talk about domestic violence spilling into the workplace, that's something that we always kind of get. We always get that that mindset of the guy coming through the door, and it happens, and that's what we talk about. But like with the school here, you have how many kids in school, Peter? Okay, 187. For my math, we'll round it to 200. 200 kids come 400 parents.
And I can tell you, being a cop for 30 years, kids are the fulcrum when things go bad. And we talked about domestic violence spilling into the workplace. So just kind of keep that in mind. And this happened when I used to work at the J. I would always watch that domestic violence. It's in the city of Scottsdale, every single homicide for the last